All right. Good morning. Happy Friday, gentlemen. Another day of Bitcoin breakdown. Let's get right down to it. Starting on the weekly chart here again, just kind of continuing to look at what we've been talking about. And, at this point, obviously this trend line is holding up fairly well. Touch there, rejection. Um, we'll zoom in on this right here in just a short time here, but as of right now, basically, ideally, we would have liked to end the week up here, at least in terms of a continued upside. Um, I've got all these blue lines here, kind of marking some horizontal support and resistance zones, and as you can see, we're kind of caught up between two zones there at the moment. So typically once you lose one, the likelihood is that you're going to move to the next one down. So, still expecting probably something, again, close to 40,000, but maybe even below. We start getting down below that. All of a sudden, we start opening up again, 37.5. Maybe even as far down, maybe even to come retest this level down here, 36 and change. If it does go down there, it probably wicks down. It probably doesn't stay down there, but it depends on how serious this rejection ends up being. From a weekly standpoint, we still got what 2 days and 11 hours before this candle would close. And volume wise, there's not a ton of volume, so typically if I see descending volume and the price is also descending, I might think that there's some reversal thoughts in play there. Um, but we talked about it over here, and obviously this has been several weeks at this point, but you know, we had the big drawdown, and then slop for 2 months, right? We're really only a month into the slop at this point, at least potential slop. I still hold to the idea that this pattern right here could hold up fairly well. So again, ideally we wouldn't lose support of this level on a longer term basis, but it doesn't mean we can't lose it temporarily. So again, I still think anything down to here. Now I always find it interesting. This market has a way of kind of making you really sweat it out, right? So like even if you looked at like 5 minute candles right before hourly closes and stuff, you're gonna see that the market moves quote unquote a lot during that time period. And again, it's just trying to draw in longs or draw in shorts and then just a reverse course on you. So it's very feasible that the market says, yeah, we're going to find support here by the end of the week, but that's never given that you're not going to fall below that level prior. And again, every time we've come up and tested this level here and failed to hold it, there's been downside. Well, not, every time. It's only happened a few times, but yeah, rejection, and so far rejection. Now the question is, do we end up losing support of this line here? That becomes problematic if we do. Then we're starting to talk 33 and 32,000. And again, until such a time that I can say that this number is not at least outside feasibility, this is always going to be our bottom number here. I would like to think that the weekly 200 moving average will hold up in all circumstances. So as always, there's this number way down here at about 20,000, which obviously would be scary, and that's why it never happens that fast. It's the market has to it's going to hold for a bit there. But yeah, on a weekly, we're just kind of moving along here. Let's zoom in on the daily. I think we can paint a little better picture here. All right, so just kind of bring it into a little shorter time frame here. Let's kind of take a look at some price action and see what we might expect here. So you know, so this particular trend line here, for all intents and purposes, has been respected since January 22nd. In terms of closing daily candles within that, it had been doing so for the better part of a month, really. We basically had darn near 4 weeks upside, 3.5 weeks at least. Now, this is going to be the interesting thing. So we fell out of this channel here, which typically, the expectation is that this pattern, when it's a descending pattern, that will actually break to the upside. It is ultimately a bullish pattern, even though it's a slight downtrend. The expectation is it should break to the upside. Well, we fell out of that pattern. And right now, we've actually got a bearish retest that took place right here on this wick that you can see. And then in addition, when you get these bigger drawdowns in a day, you don't necessarily see an immediate reversal most times. I mean, here, after a bigger one, you had a smaller one and then a reversal. But, same concept. Yeah, I mean, you had a big one and then followed by a smaller one, big one, smaller one, big one. So the expectation is that it could and should probably fall a little bit further. Now, as of right this moment, it's actually put in a double bottom. So, but it's not insane volume or anything coming back the other way. So I'm not necessarily prepared to say that we're ready to go green again. I anticipate this probably is going to end up being a red candle today, but again, and the same concept still applies. Probably looking here, maybe finding support, maybe wick down to here, support here by the end of the day. Things get crazy again. Maybe we wick all the way down to here, which wouldn't be a terrible thing because that actually gives us a retest of this white descending trend line, which actually goes back all the way to the original all-time high set back in April last year. The trend line itself, just in case anybody would be wondering why it is, I negated this area and this area. Those are essentially bull traps. This doesn't necessarily represent the actual trend. That was a temporary break of the trend and then a reversal. So essentially, I'm negating those. So I'm really looking at this line, saying, well, this is the line we need to hold. We start breaking back into that line, and I would maybe get a little more concerned about some significant downside. But yeah, as of right now, we're probably just going to be slopping sideways most of the day. If we get a nice divergence on the chart, we might start picking up some steam to the upside. But as of right now, it would be much more likely that we head down to the downside a little bit further. But again, let's zoom in on a little shorter time frame and see what's going on the close up. All right, so zooming in on some smaller time frames here. Hourly chart. We got a little bounce this morning off of this level, which was tested the day prior. Got a little bounce, came right back up here into resistance. Looks like maybe potentially we're putting in a double top right there. Which at which point I would expect again we would actually reverse course again at some point here over the next several hours. And then again move to the downside. Now if you look at this chart, it is slightly different. I purposely do this as far as kind of charting out that other chart differently. I use that for higher time frames. This one I use for lower. So I'll purposely, use some different trend lines and such. But you can still see here we've got that downward channel that I was saying we just fell out of. We've already put in a bearish retest there. This would be the line that represents the ascending green box that you saw in the other chart, and this would be the bottom of it again. Same kind of concept here. We came up, we put in bearish retest basically on that line. So right now, we're kind of just working through what I would say, at least in the short term, looks like a bit of a descending triangle. If we just continue to move sideways here and kind of bounce up, bounce down, bounce up, bounce down, if it gets to here, chances are pretty good breaks to the downside. If it pops up again beforehand, then we're back in business. We just need to get back inside of this pattern to feel good about moving back to the upside. So, and again, kind of just talking in terms of where we were from a weekly standpoint and what we wanted to see. Ideally, this level hold up. You can see this little red dash line right here that brings the pricing action all the way across. So we're not far below it. And again, we want to ideally end up over top of that by the end of the weekend. So what are two ways this would go down, I would expect? We're either going to, the market's going to make us sweat it out and it's going to bring us back down further just to pop up by the end of the weekend, or maybe we actually see a little bit of a run up maybe into this level over the weekend. That's 41,005, 41,600, maybe somewhere into that range over the weekend. Before Sunday coming back and retesting this. Now, if we close the week at this level, it does open up some opportunity for us to possibly go green again next week, and push back to the upside. So it just depends. Again, we've been talking about the pullback. We're expected, 40, 38, 39, somewhere in there. We're basically there at the moment. So now it's just a waiting game to see if we can get back above this level, to go ahead and go into some longs, or if we're going to stay down below here, just kind of meander sideways, and then we'll go ahead and continue to stay short for the time being. But yeah, that's what we've got. Looking forward to next week, gentlemen. Enjoy your weekend.